Good morning, everyone. Today I'd like to talk about atheists in church. Seems like an odd thing on its face because, the first question it begs is, well, why are they there? And what prompted this little video is a comment that somebody left on my video. This was JC Rebel 18 saying, "Not to poke fun, but I find it kind of ironic they were holding this in a place of worship like a church when their general thesis is anti-religious." And maybe he came to some other conclusion himself about the status of that comment because I can't find it on the video anymore. But everyone should link their videos, their YouTube channel, to their email so that every comment gets sent to it, so that you never lose something that you want to make a video about later. Moving on, it wasn't a particularly insensitive comment, but I'll have a few things to say about it. First, the video that it was put on was of Victor Stenger at the AAA Atheist Alliance of America convention in 2012. It was called The Ascent of Atheism. And that was actually held in a hotel convention center downtown in Denver. So what he's probably referring to is the speech that Victor Stenger gave at the UU Church of Pueblo. Now, Here's the part that's not ironic. The UU Church, you look it up for yourself, it's Unitarian Universalist, and all over the world, when you find a UU Church, they have atheist members. It's okay to be an atheist in that church, because part of their belief system is that God, or whatever higher power, is trying to experience vicariously through us every different type of experience possible. So even atheists have an important experience because God needs all the experiences, and there's multiverse theory aspects to that, to where there's a you that's just slightly different in another universe, So there's all sorts of people with all sorts of beliefs, and God needs to experience all of them to wrap them up into one big experience where everything ever possible is experienced, because God is all-knowing. And along with that comes an acceptance of atheists and people who don't have the same faith. You'll find Muslims and Christians in a UU church. You'll find Buddhists. You'll find symbols for all of these different religions in a UU church. If it weren't for the atheists in a UU church, they'd look a lot more like the Baha'i faith, where all faiths are the same faith and God just speaks to different people in different ways. So the church that he was at, it was not an ironic thing. The UU Church, they host debates between atheists and Christians, where some churches would never approach that topic because they would be afraid to let an atheist speak openly in their church, because that would be inviting the devil's breath into the ears of our membership, and they would never want that. So the UU Church is a little bit more progressive in that respect. But there are other reasons why an atheist might want to be in a church. Let's say personally, me, I just had this experience where I was in a church because a friend of mine had died, and the celebration of life ceremony that was being had was at a church, because most of her family were Christian. Many people in her family were atheists, Muslims, weird pagan offshoots, or their own thing, you know. But the majority were Christians who enjoyed the service that was Christian. Given that people normally only have one service, like a funeral type thing, a lot of people attend, and the meeting place that many people choose as the all encompassing, open to everyone place is, you know, their church. In many communities, you know, they don't really realize that some people feel put off by that because they think of their church as being the most open to everyone place in the world. They're always trying to get more people to go, right? And that brings me to another reason why an atheist might be in a church. I'm pretty sure if you go to church, you've been to church, you've seen an altar call. That's where people are called to accept Jesus into their hearts. You know? That's where people who have lost their faith or don't understand God are called to give it another chance. You know, give it a try. If it weren't for people who aren't believing in God, why would altar calls be necessary at all? You know, if you're just preaching to the choir, you don't need to do that stuff. But it seems that many people are on different levels of their commitment to a religion, and those who are on the first rung of just open to it do go to the church, and the church wants them there. So that tells me that there are atheists in church, in some churches all the time. Also, given the success of the Dawkins Foundation sponsored project called the Clergy Project, where priests, especially Catholic priests, have left the church through this project, helping them because they couldn't find any way to leave the church, because they, you know, their whole resume would be, I'm a priest, I'm a priest, I'm a priest, and then they realize, oh shit, I'm actually an atheist, and I'm preaching to people about God. So, you know, given that there's hundreds of people who have left churches where they were in a role of preaching to people, and they used this one charity to help them get their resume shored up and get into a different life, I'd say that right now there's probably atheists who are in churches running them. And this goes alongside an idea that's actually not mine. It's from a video of Phil Helene's. Check him out. He's awesome. If you see a child running down a street on the sidewalk, and you notice that his foot never steps on a crack because he believes that stepping on a crack will break your mother's back, one thing you can be sure of is that he can see the cracks. And in the sermons of many who are in a leadership role in churches, you can see that they avoid condemnation of atheism, and they avoid what other churches put forth as the more fundamentalist doctrine. And the reason why is because they don't believe in the fundamentalist doctrine. They don't openly say it, but some of them believe that God is a metaphor, and that they can still do good by being the person that they are in the role that they are, because they see a lot of bigotry in the world that they're trying to quell by, you know, coming from a place in leadership from the source of much of that pain and hurt, and saying, we can be nice about this. So I see many atheists in church, and having a place there. I would say that what I've previously described as a Dark Lord apologist exists in the world, where not only is this person truly an atheist, they are using religion in order to con people. And I would include most faith healers in this, but also, if you look at the career of Ray Comfort, he has been educated about every way that his arguments are bullshit. He has had enough responses come his way, being crammed into his inbox, that he has to have learned something by now. Okay? And yet he still keeps spewing the same bullshit because it makes money. That's what I call a Dark Lord apologist, and at his core, he might be an atheist, as well as many other people like Kent Hovind. When you are speaking in terms of apologetics, and you can read the history of how an argument went back and forth until one side kept winning, if you are trained in apologetics, you know where that argument will lead, and you know what the conclusion is. And yet they seem to bring the argument way back to where it looks like their side for what they're peddling is winning. So, yeah, they know where their argument leads, but they also know that argument, though full of fallacy, convinces many. And that's why they use it. They're rhetoricists. They're the con men of theology. But I wouldn't have expected JC Rebel 18 to have viewed all of the footage that I put up from the Ascent of Atheism convention 2 years ago. In it, there were a lot of calls for atheists to do things that churches had previously done. So there's a call for atheists to provide services that churches used to do. The most popular of those videos was a speech by the guy who runs Pharyngula. I think I'm happy that I've forgot his name. We'll just call him PC Collins. Because he's always politically correct. Wow, it's PZ Myers. I didn't have to look, but damn, brain fart. Anyway, PZ Myers, he had a talk about atheism where he was trying to bring about his own definition of atheism, where social justice values were included in it. And this was one of the precursors to the Atheism Plus fad. He even included the Atheism Plus logo in that speech. And like religious people, people who don't ascribe to his social justice values are basically deemed heretics to that social justice movement, and calls for removing them from the community and boycotting them happen. So that's kind of religious in a way, We've seen a parallel. And that parallel comes directly from churches. And I'd say that some of the organizations that best represent atheism look like churches and the way that they operate. Most atheist conventions, even the ones that are annual, basically look like jamborees. What would you call it? When there's a big festival for Christianity. I remember in LA growing up, there was the Sold Out, like SOULED, out convention that would happen like yearly. These giant stadium size events like Benny Hinn, where people get slain in the spirit, they do in size and location look like what atheist organizations do. And there are a few places that could be described as atheist churches. You know, if you had no other better way of describing them. And I'm talking about actual buildings for the Center for Inquiry. You know, there are some in many states. It's a center for inquiry. In Colorado, I'd say the place that most closely fits that profile isn't the UU churches like All Souls or the UU Church of Pueblo. I'd say probably the Secular Hub, where they have breakfast get-togethers and work-study hours together, and they have many speakers speak there. That place seems to serve the purpose of a church in the non-belief community. And there are many people who are atheists who want nothing to do with church, and they want their life to look nothing like it did when they were in a church. And I understand that. But most of the speakers at that convention were calling for filling needs that are basic and human. And one of them is fellowship. And if you're going to have fellowship, sometimes it's better to have more than just a meetup group or more than just YouTube and a list of subscriptions that you're watching. Sometimes you actually want to go out and have a beer with someone after sitting down in a common building that accepts you. So, yeah, I don't think that it's ironic to be in a place of worship when there are atheists, if the atheists are not there to be doing it, or the atheists are worshiping in their own atheistic way. Nothing ironic about it at all. In fact, I've seen churches rented out to Halloween spook haunts. I've seen schools being rented out on the weekends to churches. The building is the building. The people are the people. You know, the fact that a Scottish Rite Masonic temple gets rented out to a professional wrestling organization means nothing about the Scottish Rite's stance on professional wrestling. It means that they wanted to rent out their hall to anyone who could pay for it to help offset the cost of them being there all the other times for the purpose that they're there for. So, I hope that that was enlightening to those of you who think that atheists have no reason that isn't ironic to be in a church. Maybe like some of the people here in Denver who have organized with the Daft meetup group, maybe some of you out there will go to churches specifically to talk to people about your atheism. Which would be a religious thing to do in that it's kind of evangelizing for not having a God, but at the same time, it isn't. It's the opposite of evangelizing, you know? And I guess it depends on your perspective. If you want to look at atheism as just another form of belief, you know, that could try to convert people to it, or an actual an evolution of thought where belief systems in general are all dealt with together versus this idea that maybe we can, I don't know, transcend all of what's happened in the past with all the wars and the suffering and the people condemning other people to hells and shit. Yeah. Maybe we can just get out, you know, put forth the message to those people who still get stuck in those ruts, that they don't have to be stuck there anymore. And yeah, I guess the biggest groups of them that you could find, the place where logic bombs should be targeted to would be churches. And maybe that's where atheists are needed the most.